I worked in Turner, and I worked specifically under GTO, and GTO is Global Technology and Operations. So what I did in what Global Technology and Operations is it's whatever processes, any content produced by Turner goes through GTO. And inside of GTO, there's NATO. And what NATO is it's GTO, but specifically in North America. So inside of NATO, there's content administration. So anything that's broadcasted by Turner goes through content administration. And inside of content administration, where I did a bulk of my work, was sales operations. So what sales operations' biggest goal is to create these things called commercial logs. So this is an example of a commercial log. And the way I like to describe it is it's kind of a TV guide, but for commercials. So you have the program segment, how long it's going to be, a Geico ad, a Nestle ad, and then it keeps going for a 24-hour span from 5:59 to 6 in the morning. So you have this, and the main goal is to make that, and this is how Turner has streamlined its operations so that everything runs smoothly. So it starts with ad sales, so those are the guys that are actually selling the spots to agencies, and then it goes to sales operations, and they create those commercial logs, and then it ends up in broadcast operations where they'll actually run the log and play everything on those networks. So when you get into the more nitty-gritty things, all these purple circles are the applications that I worked with in my internship here. So when you're actually looking at what a commercial goes through to air before it reaches sales operations, is ad sales will sell a spot to an agency, and there's a bunch of information that they get, like a selling title. So there's the morning, and then there's the afternoon, and there's some specifics into that, as well as like the time they want to play it and the dates that they want to play it. So ad sales will put that information into Admiral, and Admiral, the application itself, will expedite that information into an application called Crossroads. So after ad sales sells the spot, the agency has to do some things too, so that their ad actually can go on air. So there's the actual file of the commercial itself, and that's called the creative. And what they do with the creative is they send the creative to the media center, and what the media center will do is tag it with the CID. And so there's two ways to identify the creative. You have the ISKI and you have the CID. So the ISKI is actually created by the agencies, and the CID is created by the media center. So you can have an ISKI, but if it doesn't have a CID, Turner doesn't have anything to do with it. Because then, when it goes to broadcast operations, they can't actually play the file itself. So what the media center does is really manages all the creatives that come in that agency sent. So what the traffic instructions are, which a big bulk of what I worked in, was there are a lot of instructions. So there are multiple ads, all 30 seconds, and it's the same brand, but they want to play a variety of each. So let's say they want to play one 60%, one 20%, and the other 20%. That information will be held in the traffic instructions. So what the agency will do is they'll email the traffic instructions to a Outlook inbox, and then Kofax will actually pull that file from the inbox, and then that information will get expedited into FileNet, or TED, which stands for Traffic Expediting and Delivery. So you have all three of these applications and all this information that needs to be together. So that's where sales operations comes in. They need to get all that information in one application, and that application is Crossroads. So what the copy team does is they place the instructions into Crossroads. So they match the order and they open the instructions, and they have two screens, and they have that file open on one, and then they have the order on Crossroads open on the other, and they put all the information from here into there. While they're doing that, they also make sure that the media center has it by checking if the ISKI has a CID. So if it's not there, they'll contact the media center and say, here's what's up, we need to make sure that this is here before I actually apply this copy. So once they're done updating these instructions, QC will actually make sure that the application was actually correct and that everything was done correctly. Another thing that QC does is they work with standards and practices to make sure anything that goes on kids' networks is okay to air. Because you don't want any partial nudity or something that can kind of mess with kids' heads going on air. So once that's done, sales scheduling will actually work with the logs. So what I did in my work with sales scheduling was I worked on the CNN airport. So what I would do is just make sure that everything is correct. And there are two big variables. There's conflict code, which is here. So you have a credit card commercial, a hotel commercial, and you have some computer hardware commercial. And you can't have the same conflict code in a break. So for this one, if there was 2 hotel ads, you wouldn't want that to happen in one break, because then it kind of devalues both of the commercials, because you don't want to bring up its competitor in the same break. And then another big thing was separation. So let's say this Resident Inn played, right? It can't play for another 30 minutes because you don't want to keep seeing the same commercial over and over again, because it's just kind of a waste and it doesn't spread things out correctly. So going back to what sales scheduling will do is they'll make these commercial logs, and what I did is mainly work in airport to make sure that all the logs fit the variables. So here's another thing that I added, which was direct response versus retail commercials. Because in sales operations, there are 4 branches. There's retail copy, there's direct response copy, sales scheduling, and LPP. So what LPP does is they actually create the programs, and they create those kind of logs where it's the actual TV guide in a sense, and then sales scheduling will actually order the commercials. But what direct response and retail do is they both do copy and QC for themselves. So what a direct response commercial is any commercial that has a call to action. So if you see, call this number now, 1-800-555-6045 or something, that's what a direct response commercial is. Sometimes it can also be a website, because someone could have their laptop with them and they're like, oh, I need this dog food, let me go on their website and get this food. So what Gwen does all by herself in direct response is she does QC for all of the copy that comes through on direct response. And retail, no, they have a lot of guys in retail. So what I learned in my experience at Turner was, and then of course the commercial logs are created, and then it comes in to broadcast operations and they'll actually run the logs. So what I learned in my experience with Turner, aside from all the information and knowledge that I gained, I think was a value, which was productivity. I don't think, when I'm looking around at people and they have all this stuff on their list, and it seems like so much if you were to say it out loud, but when they actually do it, it doesn't feel like they're doing so much work, because the way they do things is they kind of take everything one step at a time. You look at one task, you get it done, and then you go to the next. But of course, there might be some urgent things coming, so they always make sure they spend maybe like every 15 minutes, they just check their emails just to make sure nothing urgent or no one needs them. So productivity was probably the biggest lesson I learned, or kind of an invaluable or intangible value that I learned in this experience, and that's my presentation.